This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
Yo.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Where, you know, we're here with somebody who won 6 figures on stream for the first time in a very long time. Dude. Let's pop it.
I was wondering where the hell your energy was. You just saving it up for that one moment.
What happened?
Did you miss your cue there by about 10 seconds?
Yeah, I was looking down at my screen.
One job, Conrad. One fucking job.
Literally one.
You know, sometimes shit happens.
You can't win on stream, can you, Burke, huh? Can't win on stream.
That's what they say, Brian.
Yeah.
You know, then they brought me this juicy lineup full of poker internet stars and celebrities, and you know, the kid did it.
You did it.
He got out there and he made some hands.
Yeah. It's nice to
no
make
bluffing
hands.
for me.
No bluffing.
Didn't need to.
Did you guys play the Jack 4 7 deuce game? Anything like that?
Nope.
No.
The only
That's
person
why.
I bluffed all day was Eshawn because he's good. So I just would bluff him a bunch.
They didn't give you a reason to punt it off.
There was a lot of reasons. We played bumper. Those are reasons.
They didn't give you more than necessary then, I guess.
Oh. I'm trying to think if I was running any bluffs. I mean, we could talk about some hands as we dive down the rabbit hole a little bit later. Before we get to that, there's more important things going on in the world than me having another victory on TV. You know, just show up to work with your lunch pail every day and good things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But before we get into the shits, we have a new course out today. The one and only Thinking Poker, Andrew Brokus, has a 5-part series coming to you on S4Y TV called Splitting Ranges. There are 5 episodes. The first is the introduction to range splitting. The second is slow playing. Third is bluffing and floating. Fourth is barreling the turn. And 5 is c-betting from out of position. All of those are currently available on our site. If you're not already a member, head over to s4y.io. Be sure that you sign up and check it out. You get a 2-week free trial. I love Brokus's courses. It's kind of one of those things where since he's not like really in-house, we're not talking shop with him all the time. I look forward to when these courses come out because I kind of get to learn from him in a way that, you know, is a lot more condensed than if, say, he and I were having a conversation and just like shooting the shit about what's been going on lately and how we like to approach these spots. It's nice to be able to get inside the mind of somebody who I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, same. I'm excited for this course. His other courses, yeah, they're great. Toy games is great. Betting lines. I just actually went back through betting lines last week, and it's really great. So, yeah, he's putting a nice little catalog together on S4Y TV, and
right.
you know, you should check it out.
Wow, how on earth the one day Zamani shows up, Conrad misses his cue, and
And Zamani gets the right there.
Are you?
Yeah, that was great.
Man, Guap, is it possible for you to zoom out on me a little bit? I feel like I'm right inside of you.
Oh, wow.
Let me see what I can do.
Maybe that's right where he wants you.
I mean, I'm as max zoomed out as possible on my camera, but like, you know, I'm getting a lot of this right now.
That's all right. But the people
Triton's
are here for
going
Burke.
on. No, it's not. Triton's going on. They got some shit going down. Their first event ended today. The 25K, 900,000 plus up top. There we go. Look at that. Look at this beautiful bicycle room I'm in. You know, I'm not really showing off the background to the fullest, but this pastel purple and yellow scheme is very A plus. High quality rooms here. before we get to the results of the 25K, though, I want to shine a light on this new technology that Triton has introduced. It's very similar to what PokerStars is doing at the EPTs. The difference is that Triton is doing it in a way that, don't get me wrong, they're employing a lot of people, which, hey, kudos for creating jobs. Great on you, Triton. But they literally have a person standing behind every fucking table, tracking the action of every single hand that's played in the event.
It's pretty fucking insane.
That's amazing.
This is like what Tortoise does for the academies, only they're doing it over like 20 tables, which is actually awesome. So I said that this is similar to what PokerStars EPT is doing, but really they're a little bit more limited in their scope. So they've automated all of the table changes. They've automated seat draws and like all this other stuff. That's all being done now with an app. And it's very easy to track and follow. But this is for the reporting side. So you can actually get tangible hand histories from the event, as you see scrolling here, very similar to what you would see in like a GG poker hand history, which is really incredible. Long time coming for what it's worth.
How do the players feel about this?
Good question. Do you think they care?
I think that it's kind of a plus because some people, when they play on feature tables, all of their hole cards are shown. Mm-hmm. So now having access and information to all of the people that are playing, there's none of that, oh man, I'm on the feature table, they can see my whole cards type shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I think that's a very valid point. Go ahead, Connor.
No, I was just saying you can't see the whole cards on the outside tables, but you see like play down action. It's not like
right, but his point is now this will expose everybody's hand histories instead of just the people who are on the feature table.
Yeah, the feature table you're still getting a little bit more information as you can see the whole cards, and sometimes you can't the other way. But yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of feel bad for the people that have to stand that whole time.
I thought the same thing.
I was like,
same thing. Like you just stand there for
hours.
hours.
Sit down and play a tournament for 10 to 12 hours, but to have to stand up and follow the action is kind of brutal.
They probably rotate, right?
I would hope so.
They just like
Triton knows how to do it. They're smart. It's pretty cool. I like it. I'm a fan.
I'm a big fan. I think from a player standpoint, it's a net positive. And also from an ecosystem standpoint, I know this is a bit of a reach, but I think it's a net positive in the sense that there's no more lying to your backer. I'm about to tell a story, and I don't want to call
poor
him out.
Brandon.
Like, I'm not upset about it. It was a long time ago, and I completely understand it. He's moved on to bigger and better things, and God bless him. But I was backing my friend Brandon. This must have been what, 2013, 2014, something like that. Lamana?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so yeah, I was backing him and Brian still at the time. It might even have been earlier, but anyway, I put them both into the main event, and Brandon was like 3 tables away from me, and Will the Thrill was at his table, and we were going on like second break of day 1. I think I had like accumulated a bunch of chips, and he was above starting. He had like maybe 60 or 70K. I think starting back then was like 40 or 50. And we had just met on break. The previous break, everything was going well. We meet on break again this time, and we're like walking back to the former Lamana room at Rio to meet our friend Danielle, and he's telling me this story about how he got crippled and how he only has like 20 bigs left. I'm like, okay. And it was like the weirdest hand history in the world, where he like limped under the gun with queens. It was like 3-bet back to him. He cold called. It came queen high. They got in all the money, and the guy had like aces, and then ripped an ace off on the turn. I'm like, man, that seems really unlucky, but also highly suspicious the way you played this hand.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, it's like top set versus aces where you get cooled off, and he rips off an ace. Like that shit happens. So he busts very shortly thereafter, and I see Will's at his table and a couple other people I know, and I just happened to bump into him, and I was like, oh man, first of all, oh man, this is even more notable. Jesus Christ, I totally forgot about this. So the other layer to this story is at the time there was a guy in the main event who was playing it as his last dying wish. He had been put in by like Pocket Fives or one of the news outlets. They had put him in. Maybe it was like Card Player or Poker News. I don't recall, but they had put him in as his last dying wish, he was dying of cancer, and he was at Brandon's table. So I like walked by and I was like, I heard you guys got my boy. And he goes, who was your boy? I go, the kid with the scar on his face. He goes, oh, he got himself. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he points to the guy in the one seat who is this amateur who's been put into the event as his last dying wish. And he goes, he rocketed off all his money with Queen's pre-flop to this guy. And like, you could like see the guy was very nervous and like wasn't going to put in chips without aces, right? And I was like, wait, what? He told me that it all got in post. He goes, no, he put in like 6 bets pre with Queens. I'm like, well, that's a way fucking different story. Probably could have found a call there somewhere. But the post flop apparently was true. Although I don't recall if it came like ace queen high or if it came queen high turn ace. But he did ultimately end up getting set over set. It's just all the money went in when he was dead.
Yeah. Well, maybe you just have to, fudge that a little bit. Like, the money went in post, Hey.
It was the way that
either way, Berkey was gonna get cooler. He might as well just save some face.
It was the way that he fudged it in order to make the pre-flop make sense that immediately took me to a place of I've done this before. Yeah. I know what you're doing right now. Like,
right.
My first 5 or 6 years of playing, there's a lot of ego that you're dealing with. And when I would play a hand poorly, but I wanted like objective feedback from the group as far as like, okay, let's say I didn't play this hand that way, but I had a different hand. How would you guys play it? I would manufacture action in order to get like this hypothetical feedback for a scenario that didn't fucking matter.
Right. You conjured the situation to get what you wanted.
Yeah.
Yes. It was all copium, right? So as he's like going down this rabbit hole of like, like getting limp raised from the big blind, I don't know, whatever nonsense he came up with, I was just like, nah, man, I can spot that a mile away. Like this, you're making this up as we go. And if I ask you to repeat this again, you're going to get something wrong.
that was me once.
It's funny because now, like in the world of all the technology we live in now most people like they film their hands. They feel like when they're all in. So I mean, I guess maybe you wouldn't get the previous action, but that's how I feel. I'm like, should I be filming this? Because like I'll like post on Instagram or I'll say like my bust out hand. I'm like, I wonder if people think I'm lying.
The answer is no. You should not be filming it.
Yeah, I know. But like, I wonder if people think I'm lying. Like when I busted the mystery bounty, like I got it in with bottom set versus top pair and an open ender, and then he just rivered me. But like I was just like, it just sounds like I could see how people would be like, nah, that really didn't actually happen.
Nah, it doesn't really matter, right? The only person that matters that knows and should
people
care
buy pieces of me and stuff like that. Yeah, I know.
I mean, if they buy a piece, they trust that you're not going to lie to them.
Of course, I know.
So but I understand. I think Brian's point's valid. Like showing hard receipts is always good practice. But like what I'm speaking to more is when you're early in your poker journey, you really have no comprehension of variance. I mean, 20 years in, I'm just starting to understand it. The smallest minutia. Like that's why I don't sweat it whenever people are like, oh, you never went on stream. It's like, bro, you're looking at like literally the dustiest sample of all time. Like we're gonna get there, don't worry. But when you're first starting that journey, you really truly don't understand variance. You repeat it as a buzzword and you say luck is for losers and like, over the long term, yada yada yada, and all that bullshit that you're fed by people who have been around a lot longer that do understand variance. But the fact of the matter is I shouldn't say this in a general sense because it's probably a lot less true of Landon's generation than of ours, but we were playing on a very emotional landscape, right? It was very ego based. And a lot of what was going on there was, our mood was dependent upon the outcome as well as our livelihood and everything else. Like we were just riding the dragon. And ultimately, I think what comes from that is this almost sense of being a victim, right? Like you almost develop this like inner victimhood of when negative variance occurs, you want to exaggerate it to the degree where it's almost unbelievable.
Right.
Right. Like I lost quads to a straight flush and this just keeps happening to me and only to me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So it's the main event. It's the biggest event of the year. Like you don't want to just bust in some sort of standard fashion, at least not back then.
Right.
It has to be like quads over quads in a in a limp raised.
Yep. It has to be a Casino Royale type hand.
Right. Yeah. And like, I truly think that, from 2003 to 2013, maybe even longer, 2015, whatever, that was just commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there probably wasn't a single fucking accurate hand history told over the better part of a decade.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, speaking for my generation, at least from the online standpoint, it's actually the inverse, where you have to curb the sim ego, if you will, where you play a hand based off of theory and say, oh yeah, like theory says this is good, but then you have to have the hard conversation of, yeah, but is it actually good practically? Mm-hmm. And you're coming from that sort of standpoint rather than just looking at the machine-based stuff, especially in softer field live.
See, you're not a slave to the sim.
No, apparently to everyone, I'm cat jamming the ace 4, ace 5. Don't worry about it.
Deuces too.
Yeah, ace 4, ace 5, deuces, 3 ace 4s.
And the variances.
And fives.
The variances. Like especially in like small sample sizes. Like Nick Petrangelo, he final tabled this Triton event. This is his first cash in a Triton event.
What?
Yeah, what? It's his first cash in a Triton event. Since like going back to like 2019 or 18 or whatever it was.
Yeah, hearing stuff like that is like as shocking as like finding out that Brewer just had his first near $1 million score in Paris.
This might even be more shocking.
No, I don't think so because of the volume comparison. Like there aren't that many Tritons.
There aren't that many.
Like,
he was thinking it like he's probably played a bunch of them.
He's played what 50 to 75 Triton events.
I don't know if there's been that many. Man.
Maybe not that many, but he's probably he's played 25. Probably.
I'm sure if it comes to just like bullets in general, right? It's over probably 30.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one of those kind of shocking things.
Right. Yeah.
A shout out to Chris for final tabling 25K.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Year of Brewer, baby. He's back.
Yeah, the heater is real. We could talk about that final table a little bit right now. So it was an 8-handed final table, which hold on a second. There we go. So 8-handed final table. The finalists were Seth Davies, Chris Brewer, Nick Petrangelo, Michael Soiza, and Jonathan Jaffe, all coming out of the United States. So 5
USA, baby. Representing.
Sosia Jiang, she's Australian, been around the high roller scene for quite some time. She made it. Landon's friend, Roman. Which also, to be fair, Landon, when you tell me that one of your friends has done well in a high roller, it's like, well, you're kind of just friends with everyone.
No, I've increased the barrier of saying friend. Roman sick, Roman Hrabik second for 650 or so.
You know what Landon said to me today?
Landon qualifies friendship on how good they are at poker.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's not even true.
Also, he's like, man, I
really hope so because he considers me a friend, I think.
Yeah,
he's
my
like,
friend. You're my only friend.
He's like, yo, I should have went to Triton. I could have got the swap in.
I would have got the swap.
He 100% would have got that swap.
I got the swap in. One day I'll win. Oh, I'm gonna win when no one wants to swap with me anymore. That's the plan.
Then you bank it.
Yeah.
That's the lifelong plan there. And then finally, the last player at the final table was Lim Webster, who ultimately was victorious. He beat Roman heads up for $965,000. Pretty big pay jump. I think second was what, 685-ish, something like that.
Like 635, 650, something like that.
Yeah, they're in there banging, man. They're banging it out. Today is, I guess, day 2. I'm not sure what event is going on. I didn't
15K.
15K. Oh, okay. That's actually great. It's good to see more of those. We were just talking about that yesterday, how a slightly lower barrier of entry could potentially grow these fields, especially with a lot of satellite winners there. I know Nagy sent a few people where he just gave them 100K and said, like, play whatever you want to play. And then I'll take half kind of thing, or up to half. Yeah, this 10K, 15K barrier of entry, it's still a big buy-in for most people, but it's low enough where you can dip your toes into the high roller scene. Like, I'm not good at MTTs, and I would even consider playing some buy-ins at that level, especially if I traveled all the way to Triton.
Yeah.
Yeah, ACR also had some satellites running on their site. It was like a high-stakes Vietnam package.
I saw that. It was a 100K package, right?
Package. Yeah, there was like 2650s on the site.
And they had a lot of satellites to get into that.
What a beautiful package to win.
Pretty sick.
I mean, it's kind of cool to see satellites, online satellites, come back to like bigger events, especially with something like this, like 100K. That's pretty dope.
I wanted to win the ACR satellite. I didn't even try, but
I was gonna say, you didn't even play it,
had.
probably.
No, I've played on ACR like one time ever, but I wish I would have, just so that Nagy would have had to like personally send me there. And then I could like hit him up and be like, I don't even want. How about you take half my action? It would have been, and then I like make him all the money, and that's the beginning of a budding friendship.
Yep,
you guys have
that's
been
how you
best
win.
friends.
You gotta
Phil
have
and I
lucky
are best
money.
friends now. Listen, when people meet me, they like me quick.
I know. I saw that. I was like, you and Phil are like best friends. He's tweeting at you, congratulating you on your win.
We're going on tour,
he
baby.
had to put in all of his wins first before he got to you, but he did congratulate you. You guys are like old pals, yeah. It's nice.
We're going on tour. We're gonna start traveling the world. You're gonna find us in fucking Choctaw and some other podunk towns.
Are you guys gonna go on the
just-
Moneymaker tour together?
Yeah, we're going to be grinding 50, 100 everywhere you see, man. I'm going to be ripping off these 100K scores, and he's going to tell me how he's just going to get me in a 500K pot with his 13,000 in front of him. It's going to happen.
Mr. Hellmuth, you tried to steal my name last night? You called yourself the tortoise?
What?
He did.
He did. He goes, Berkey, we're like the tortoise in the hair. Yeah, I think.
We have a clip.
You have it clipped up?
I'm working on
I
it.
said we got a clip that is unbelievable.
Yeah. He says we're like the tortoise in the hair, and Berkey goes, I'm guessing I'm the hair in this situation.
Wow,
Fast
unbelievable.
as fuck, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, and then Jaffe gave me a shout out, which was nice.
Shout out to Turtle.
Yep. So no, he got it right. He'll never get it wrong
I
again.
know, it's so good. I like Turtle too. Turtle.
I did watch back the first broadcast, and there was just a random point where I was like watching it, and he said something about Only Friends, and then he goes, and big shout out to the tortoise. I called him the turtle once, but like never again. The disrespect.
Yeah.
He was trying to recruit you to go to Houston. What happened there?
Berkey's winning all the money. Look at
Well,
this.
maybe I don't know.
Are you gonna crack a smile?
The bigger backstory to
Don't
that is,
smile.
what was really
And we
happening
got
was
one of the best
Phil,
players in the
being
world,
Phil,
Johnny
was
fucking
name
Chan
dropping.
in the house here. Ever.
And
Yeah. And,
mentioning,
along with little old me.
the owner of Champions. And were you guys with us when we went on that Houston trip?
Was not.
Landon was. I was not.
Houston trip. I don't know about Houston, but I know about Austin.
No.
When we went to when we went to Champions,
I was not there. No.
It was just me, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
When you
so.
played that cash game stream.
Yeah. It was like a big event that they were doing. We got paid to go and play. And then there was a big cash game stream where it was like me, Elias, Perkins, and a few others. Anyway, that happened, I think, right after the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. And Isaac is like the main guy who, I guess, is in the day-to-day type of stuff. He and I have remained like in contact for a long time. He loves like what we do at Solve4Y. I'm a big fan of their vision over at Champions. And yeah, we've just always like found some sort of synergy there. Like I could see a world where we work together. Roy is the main guy who owns and operates, and he's also the guy who owns and operates, I guess they refer to as the corporation. I only ever knew the corporation to be the people who played against Andy Beal. But anyway, in California, the way that they get around the gaming laws is that somebody has to, I guess, be the banker in like Pygal and whatnot. And he just runs a third-party company that does that. So they come into like Commerce, the Bike, all these other places, and they just serve as the bank in the table games. And they're obviously just printing, whatever the edge is, maybe 1-2% on being the house. And then I think that they pay like a table fee to the actual casino itself. I'm not really sure how it all runs and operates, but that's what Roy is the head of, and that's what Hellmuth was like boasting about. He's like, yeah, I just had a 90-minute long call with Roy, like we're about to open Champions back up in Houston. So the long and short of it is Champions was supposed to open in Dallas, Texas, and there was red tape that they weren't able to get through. At the same time, we were actually this is all before Doug bought the lodge. We were actually going to partner with Palms Card House in Austin because they had a fast track to Dallas as well. And our partnership was going to be contingent upon that. We were going to open a room in Dallas. It just seemed like, a virgin market that was ripe for the picking. That got shut down basically by all the legislation. Only TCH Dallas was able to maintain operations, and we all know the red tape that they've been trying to fight through to stay open since then. So we ended up pulling out of Palms. Champions ended up not getting to open in Dallas in spite of owning the property and being all set up. And at the same time, they didn't like their location in Houston, so they kind of just shut that down in the intermediate time until they could get their ducks in a row. So I guess what Phil was speaking to yesterday was they're finally in a situation where they're planning on reopening. It sounds like their Houston location is going to be first, and then they have plans to expand into, I would imagine, Dallas, maybe San Antonio and Austin. I'm not sure. But I know what's going on behind the scenes there very well. I love the vision that they have in place. And I know that they want to be a big player in the live streaming world. So what Hellmuth was talking about was they want somebody to do like Brent's job. And he thought of me, but I don't think I'm qualified at all to do that job. If I were, I'd be running a private game in Vegas or somewhere else.
Right.
Also, I don't want to move to Houston. I'm just, it's like I'm actually shocked that Brent is very good at what he does, and maybe it's because no. This is a compliment to Brent.
I know it's the way you phrased it.
I'm very shocked he's so good at organizing games, because I think in order to organize games, you actually have to compromise a lot of your own. Ethics isn't the right word, but like I guess maybe pride or ego, or basically you have to pander so hard to the people that the game run around,
right?
And you have to jump through so many hoops, and almost less so for Brent because he's operating for a major company like PokerGo where they just want to be in the studio, but more so for like the private games. So like the guys who are running the game in Bellagio or the game that runs in Ivy's room, like you have to do so much stuff that I would be unwilling to do when it comes to catering to the VIPs, that personally, like I could just never be a good game host.
Yeah, but Brent, he's so personable, so likable. I think a lot of that just comes natural to him.
He also just doesn't have to jump through the hoops, right? Like he doesn't have to go take them to the club and dust $50K on bottles and girls, right? But like, the more notable game runners out there are willing to do that type of stuff. And it's just like, I don't have it in me, man. It's like, I just want to gamble, and like, I will gamble with you all day long and facilitate. Also, like in the private sector, you have to be able to loan and facilitate and keep these games afloat. Whereas like in Brent's scenario, you never have to do that. Same thing with like Wayne or Ryan, like they're hands off. They don't have anything to do with the money factor. They don't have to loan. They don't have to worry about keeping people afloat.
Yeah, it's not like Molly in Molly's game where she's got like 3 million out on the street.
That's exactly what the private games look like.
Right. Though. Yeah.
That's what every private game looks like, just about.
Yeah. So I guess like maybe it is a little bit different when we're comparing like doing that job at Champions versus me starting a game in Vegas. You like the Champions job, I guess, comes with a lot more leeway to just be authentic. The problem is that it makes your job a whole fucking hell of a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like you don't have anything to offer. It's a lot more difficult to just get guys in there who want to splash.
Yeah,
I think the Lodge is seeing that, right? Like those games were great. They were really fucking fun to watch and entertaining. But by the last day, the game was getting relatively tough. Even the day before, it's like it's 5 or 6 professionals, and then Perkins, who's no slouch, Keyboard Monkey, who's no slouch. Like these games are competitive.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to find clientele for such high stakes. I want to play on stream.
It's the stream part, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I agree.
Because it's not hard to. it's not hard to find people that want to play high stakes. It's hard to get them to play exclusively with you. Like if you're a game runner, right? There's so much infighting over the same small liquidity pool.
It's like
everybody.
Sorry. Always the best private games always has like one or two players that show up every single time, and they're just whatever infinitely rolled or something along those lines, and that's what makes
everybody picks a side, and then they just leverage the fact that they know the game runs around them, right? So it's like Persons and Keating are aligned together, and maybe Hicks plays in that group, and a few others, right? And then it's like this whole other group. In Bobby's room, it's like they're not allowed to cross pollute, otherwise they start losing favor, right? So like none of them ever play each other's games, and like when they do, then there's this hard attempt to poach by the game runner himself. Like, oh well, what are they offering you? Well, we can offer you this kind of thing, and like it's even more fierce in the online app streets. But that's a totally different arena because everybody's just getting scalped through the rake there. Live poker is a lot different, where it's just like you're trying to just pull liquidity into your game and keep it there for some period of time. And like the Bellagio has gotten really fucking bad. I actually heard recently that the 10, 20, 40 game's leaving, which it's been a staple of that room since it opened.
Leaving where?
To go to the Win.
Really?
Yeah,
what's that going to do to the 5-10 game at the Win? Because that, the 5-10 game usually runs like a 10-20 game there, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they'll put a cap on the 5-10 and then just.
I don't think so. That's just like never been the Win policy.
Yeah, I highly doubt they would do that.
Right.
The 5-10 will probably just move.
They'll just play smaller.
Or it will go to Bellagio or whatever. Because like the 50, 100 guys. Or the 100, 200, whatever, like Simon and Chris and those guys that are running the Bobby Room game, they can't poach from 5-10.
Yeah.
But the rumor is that they've just been like hardcore poaching from the 10, 20, 40. Which I think had been happening for a long time anyway, but I think that they're actually just getting assisted by people like on property now. And so the game's just gonna which is smart. Like the regs need to understand that they have power, right? They stay at Bellagio because of the foot traffic and the fact that like a whale might just wander in. Well, the Win is the next best option when it comes to foot traffic, and you don't have to compete with a private game that's trying to steal your recreationals.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Go. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's definitely one of those things now when it comes to it's always been known that the political side of stepping over tape has been existent for the many years, but then also kind of trying to navigate that landscape is a completely different skill set than just playing poker. So if you're someone that just wants to show up and gamble and give action, there's also hoops that you kind of have to jump through from the other side, which go not like unnoticed, but seem undervalued from like the gamesmanship standpoint, which in all honesty kind of is a little bit short-sighted, because there is a skill and a like ecosystem being able to be good and run these games and have like cash on hand and have to do all those sort of hoop jumping activities, where there's definitely some power in that.
There's like finesse.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. Right? You can't just start a game if you want to.
Right, of course.
Yeah, I think what's really changed for the worse since like the days of JRB running the game in Ivy's room is the gap between the next biggest game running in the room. So like when those guys in Bobby's room are running 100 and the open game to the public is like 10 20 40 or 20 40 80, they're effectively the same game, right? And now there's just there's like really no barrier aside from the private versus public aspect of it. And if you're a recreational player, of course you want to go play the private one because it's going to be softer and bigger and whatever. Or there's just a million reasons to want to be in the private side of things. When you're running like 3 6 12 and the next biggest game is like, call it 50 100, now there's two separate ecosystems, And yes, there's a lot of overlap, but not so much so that they really compete with one another, right? Like there's just going to be a lot of people who wander off the floor that are very comfortable to play 50, 100 and lose 20 to 50K, maybe even upwards to 100, that could never go buy into 3, 6, 12, where the minimum buy-in now is what the maximum is that they're willing to lose, right? And I think that kept the ecosystem like very healthy and solid for a long period of time. Like for eight years, that big game ran in Aria that just priced pretty much everybody out and kept a very insulated ecosystem attached there. And of course, the pros that weren't in it were upset, but they had their other options, right? Like Bellagio games would just go and get as big as like 100, 200, sometimes 200, 400. And that's exactly how the Bobby's Room game was born. They built it as an alternative to compete with JRB, and there was almost no overlap at the time because anybody who wanted to play super high nosebleeds would go to Aria, and anybody who was comfortable playing like, you know, just entry level nosebleeds would go to Bellagio. Once the pandemic hit and, you know, a lot of things just changed in the ecosystem, those super high nosebleeds disappeared. And now everybody, it's kind of like what you see now at the mid stakes level. There's very little 1020 across the country because 510 just became uncapped. Like 510 just kind of became like the end point now. And 2550 all but never runs. So it's like you kind of just have your beginner poker at 1325, and then you have like 510 plus, which is just going to be some world of like 510, 510-20, sometimes 1020, but never really anything other than that. And then your high stakes, which are just going to vary between like 50, 100 up to like 200, 400. And there isn't really any difference, right? So it's made the space a lot more competitive now that you add in the private aspect of it. I don't think the private element was all that big of a problem before because the public games were still pretty fucking big and pretty available.
Yeah, that makes sense because now when it comes to somebody walking on the floor that plays 10, 20, 40, would definitely still probably, for the most part, be interested in playing the 100 private game, where these people that would play that wouldn't play the higher stakes JRB game. So now when they have that option to play, the barrier for regs is different when it's just like kind of money and versus skill set, where now it's just who you know.
Right.
Where if you're a reg and you've been trying to get into this Bobby's game for years, you're not going to get in.
Never.
But if you're walking on the floor and have money to lose, you're getting a seat tomorrow.
Come on right in. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. And it also, you know, breeds competition. All good things come to an end. There will be you'll just constantly see these private games get overturned, right? Like Keating has the ability to scale because he has access to liquidity. He has like the wealthiest player pool. So like he can make that game keep getting bigger and bigger and create that barrier that we're talking about. But at like the 100, 200 level, it's just going to continually overturn. There are going to be other people who see what Chris and Simon have done, and they're going to try to replicate it, and they're going to compete for the same player pool, and they're going to offer better perks or different perks at a different casino. And, you know, you're just going to keep seeing it pop up at resorts, at Wynn. I mean, really only going to be those two, but you'll see it elsewhere like Florida and LA, you know, these other big markets.
Yeah, there's definitely other places where like private games are just kind of the main thing when it comes to higher stakes, and the people that are connected are going to get to play, and then the people that aren't won't. And the only way you will is if you, like, in some cases, the only way you will is if you know someone that will play that high and like you bring them.
Yeah. It's
right?
like you have to network very well.
Or you're selling action too.
Yeah, or you're selling action to someone in the game, like that runs the game or whatever. But that's kind of always been known in the staple. But now that the bigger Bellagio room game isn't running as much, it makes it a little bit more interesting as to what's going to happen from that.
Well, I think stream games really change the landscape a bit too, right? I think more and more people are just being comfortable putting themselves on stream, and the fact that it's a steady game that's always there and always available.
Yeah, sometimes it's like almost the only option or the easiest option to play. Yeah,
and people are getting less and less particular, I guess, about lineups, right? Like they just don't want to be in a scenario where like they feel like they can't win. But you know, when you come out to LA, it's like every single recreational is just somebody from Macau who claims to have gotten rich from crypto, but truthfully has been like grinding for the better part of 12 years.
Yep.
Like it's just like they sent like their sturdiest grinders on a ship and we're like, all right, we're going to deploy you guys to the West Coast of the United States. Tell everyone that you're in crypto and you're a Chinese businessman. That's it. Just or you're a race car driver. You know, like, make up whatever fucking story you want.
Who was the? Like, I'm forgetting the guy's name from last night. He's like, yeah, I'm in between jobs right now. You're like, oh, so you're a professional poker player.
It was Ishan. Yeah,
Ishan,
like,
Ishan.
Come on, like, just say it, man. It's so funny, like how afraid people are to admit that they play professionally. Like, I never went that route. Like, whenever I was welcomed into Ivy's room, I knew that me getting to stay or not was going to be based upon how I help facilitate action in the game, right? Like if money moved through me and I generated big pots, I knew that I had value to offer to the game.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with labels.
Right. Chin still won't wear a patch.
Right. Yeah. Like me saying, oh, I'm a professional isn't suddenly just going to turn into, well, get the fuck out of here. It's like, guys, like, you know, you're not dumb. You're all extremely wealthy for a reason. You know, I don't have a job. Of course I'm a professional, but you know, at the end of the day, I do things that you guys can look at and say like, maybe that's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then you're going to welcome me in there. Like that's really all it comes down to. So I don't understand the reason to try to skirt the labels. Like, by Ishan saying that, like, oh no, I'm actually an engineer by trade, and I just picked up poker, you know, competitively recently or whatever. It's like you're not fooling anybody.
Yeah, and
like,
you're a computer scientist.
It's like,
it's just
you
like,
see someone bet 3x pot, and you're like, all right, bro. Like,
Berkey's like, I'm a coder, and I play poker on the side.
Right. Like it doesn't take a lot of knowledge to know that someone's good at the game, right? You see somebody check raise a hand that people might not check raise normally, and you just quote unquote pick it up. It's like, bro, we know that you look at a sim. Like it's okay. You're allowed to be good at the game. But it's the stigma of
we were talking about
Stanley
Choi a lot last.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking about Stanley Choi a lot last night, and it's like he's obviously recreational. He owns DoorDash, but like he's fucking good,
Tang.
Man. Or yeah, sorry, Stanley Tang. He's fucking good. He's just good. It's like that's okay. Yeah. You're allowed to be good at poker. You know, it's like you're still gonna get invites. And sure, he's gonna do better than like a 2-5 grinder who wears it on his sleeve that he's a slave to the sim. But at the end of the day, it's like Stanley's very enjoyable to be around, and he's a very smart man who has a lot to offer just in social dynamics alone. So it's like if he's winning in the game, whatever. Like, you know, that's what it all boils down to at the end of the day is we're all there believing that we're better than the next person sitting next to us.
Yeah.
And it's like the only way to prove it is to play.
Right. Anyone that plays high stakes poker as a hobby probably knows that in most situations, there's going to be people that play in the game, especially if it's like call it public or on stream, that are inherently good at poker.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, no one's dumb. No one just shows up and says, oh yeah, no one else has played poker like me before.
Right.
That was just always the thing that I found to be insulting is that like these guys are billionaires for a reason and we pander to them like they're idiots.
Right. Like, these guys are so smart.
Oh, okay, Joe. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, you know, ace, king versus queen, classic flip. What are you going to do? It's like, come on, man. Like, this guy's running a fucking, you know, a Fortune 500 company and probably has the IQ of somewhere north of Einstein. Like,
right.
Treat him like a human.
Yeah, and then you hit him with, like, you've been playing poker for 10 years and you say, yeah, I'm in real estate. It's like, okay, man. All right.
I don't know. After that bomb pot, I might believe it.
Man,
he went for it.
If you play poker and you care, just be like, yeah, I play poker and I care. The annoying part is when you're not fun to be around and you kind of make it your entire life, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to try to ego flex on you that this is actually an error and here's why. And that's like, well, now it's just not fun.
Yeah.
this isn't fun for me anymore. I don't want to
come
play.
here for this. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can still be good at poker and be fun.
Right.
While we're on the topic of errors, I want to bring something else up that was brought to my attention today, and it coincides with what we've been talking about the last couple of days, with regard to like using solvers at the table and things of that sort. Odin, which is a lookup database very similar to GTO Wizard, put out an email today that was shared with me saying that they have some big changes to be announced. You can now view solutions instantly without the 20-second delay. To celebrate this new feature, we're offering 66% off. I mean, I don't know what's worse, the fact that they are just like openly advertising RTA or that they're giving it to you for fucking free. Like, you should be raising the price 66% if you're going to fucking let them use it in real time. Like,
Right.
What's going on here? All right, let's not make it a fucking ad for Odin here.
Yeah, cool.
So Rory Young's the creator and founder of Odin, and I've spoken to him very briefly years ago as they were about to launch to market, and the first thing I brought up was this just sounds like it could be utilized for RTA. So this is pre GTO Wizard. I think Odin actually might have been first to market, and he was just kind of asking me my opinion about price points and what gaps in the market that maybe he's overlooking and things of that nature. And the first thing that I said whenever he described it to me is like, this is RTA, like this is just flat out RTA. And he's like, no, like we took major steps to ensure that it can't be used in real time. Game security is of the utmost importance to me. All that other bells and whistles that you're supposed to say in order to market something like this. Without a delay, I don't see how in any capacity this isn't just RTA. And I reached out to Fedor to see if he was still attached to the project, because I know that there was a bit of a falling out there maybe. And he hasn't replied to me, but I would run very, very far away if my name was attached to this, because this, I mean, here's the thing, like if you're an online poker site and you're not immediately taking steps to blocking programs like Odin from being open while people are gaming, then you're not offering real-time integrity of the games, right? And I think that there may have been a GG tie to Odin, at least at one point, right? Didn't it turn into something else, Landon? I wanted to say Thanos. Wasn't there a derivative of this that ultimately became Ask Fedor, right?
Yeah. There was something like that.
Yeah, Prometheus is like a derivative of this that GG incorporated, and it's like the Ask Fedor feature, but that's all post-hand. So as best I understand it, it's like a lookup tool or quiz tool that you can utilize after the fact.
Yeah, which is fine, obviously.
Right, but Odin, which is a web browser-based tool with no delay here, seems like it would be undetectable unless GG is able to actually see the programs on your screen, which I believe the security allows them to do that.
But then couldn't you just use a laptop or something, a different device to use it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like there'd be ways to get around it even if they did take steps.
Yeah. And I know Ruse has implemented a lookup feature where you can look and see if like specific board textures have been searched at the same timestamp as the hand played. And if yes, then I guess you could present that as evidence of somebody RTAing. But without this delay, it could potentially be so widespread, because like at least with the delay, it required a lot of time bank, right? And for what it's worth, 20 seconds was arguably way too short. And I think everybody across the industry was up in arms that it was 20 seconds. Like they wanted it to be double that, maybe closer to a minute. Now they've basically just said like, fuck it. We can't compete with GTO Wizard. They're way bigger than us. So let's just go out and get everybody who wants to cheat, I guess. Like that's what this says to me. as a consumer and an outside onlooker.
Yeah, that's
like,
what I
we just
would
don't
think too.
care.
There's no reason to. I mean, I get like, sure, 20 seconds. Like people, we live in a world where everyone wants everything instantly. But like, yeah, this seems very clear that they're targeting a certain audience or a certain consumer.
Right. Like if you're talking about study, you're talking about the difference between, like, let's say that they implemented a 1 minute delay, which I think is quite reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
If they implemented a 1 minute delay for me to run a sim, it now takes me like 4 minutes, maybe 5 once I enter the parameters, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they implement no delay, it takes me like 45 seconds to a minute.
Right.
What the fuck is the difference?
Yeah.
I'm going to spend 30 or 40 minutes studying a spot. Like, what's the difference if it takes me 3 minutes to run it or 0? Like, we are coming from not that long ago when we would spend days running
right.
sims on PO
Weeks.
just to get one response. Yeah, weeks to run scripts.
Yeah.
Like, we're still in that world. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I feel pretty terrible about bringing this up because it's almost an advert to go out and get a product that will allow you to cheat, and that's the last thing that I want to happen. So I'm sure that this is going to have it's going to have some impact that I didn't want to have happen, which is they're going to get more sales out of it. But long term, what I want to see happen is all sites just ban people who have this running, or basically crack down pretty hard, because this is precisely the exact same thing as playing live and having GTO Wizard in the palm of your hand in real time.
Yeah, not much else to say about it. Right?
And it does seem that, like, as technology gets moves forward, like things are going to get faster. This is like an ever ongoing problem that we're going to have in the industry.
I'm just confused at like who's making this executive decision.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're running and managing a business and you're doing cost benefit analysis, like you have to believe that somehow you get to capture more market share by reducing this delay to 0. Like if I don't know what the actual divide is, I just know GTO Wizard's big. If let's say GTO Wizard has 80% of the market and Odin has 20, and I'm making these numbers up, but like let's just say that's the case, and the only thing differentiating between the two of them is or let's say the most notable things differentiating between the two of them are the actual sims that are ran. So, maybe there's a preference from the user there, but the fact is the user will never know. The vast majority of the people using these will never know what the difference in accuracy is between the two. So that's off the table. Yeah. Now let's say it's user interface and user experience. Okay, that would make the most sense because that's marketable, and that is going to that's going to come from like instantaneous feedback, right? Like you open up the two products, you look at them. One of them is going to be more visually appealing. We assume the one that has the larger market share is probably better UI UX. Okay. So let's say that's the other thing. And let's say the final thing is annoyance of use, right? So the delay. I don't like that GTO Wizard has a 30-second delay or whatever theirs is, right? Odin's is 20. And, I don't like that either. What if one of them eliminates it? Do we suddenly think that the market flips? And now we capture 80% to their 20? Like people just start converting hand over fist? No fucking shot, right?
Yeah, and this also sort of forces, not necessarily forces the GTO Wizard hand, but now almost makes it possible that Wizard says, oh yeah, same thing here. No more time.
They're like, well, they did it, so now we have to compete, and now they'll do it. I'm not saying they will, but yeah, you're right. You're right. It opens the door for that, for sure.
Not great.
Or another company to come in.
Well, it's just bad practice all around, honestly.
It depends. It depends if it opens the door or not based off of how the operators respond. If GG Stars Party set precedent, like hard precedent,
right,
that we are going to police this very vigilantly,
that becomes like a net negative for them to do it.
Correct.
And it just sucks though. That just sucks. Like, why force their hand? Like you work in the poker community. That's really annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, like as somebody who's in the training space and understands how competitive it is, as much as we'd love to believe it comes down to nuance, it doesn't. It's all fucking marketing. It's just that's going to be true of any industry that you're in. The better and the more marketable you are, the more of the market share you're going to capture. The better user index, the better the better user interface, the better user experience you offer, the more of the market you're going to capture. Period. So it's like, to me, I think it's certainly missing the forest for the trees to hone in on something so silly as this, and not actually go the other way. Not actually just like, if you want to make yourself more marketable, say that you're more secure. Say, we here at Odin hold gaming integrity to the highest degree of importance, and for that reason, we've listened to your feedback and we're going to change the delay from 20 seconds to 45. That's making a much bigger statement in the vein of do business with us because we hold integrity higher than we hold bottom line.
Yeah, there's a difference between that and smash and grab, where you just remove delay.
Right, which is what this ultimately kind of feels like.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, maybe I'm misconstruing what actually happened here, but I'm going off of their marketing email. So if you're not informing your consumer base beyond what I'm reading, then I don't really think I'm out of pocket here, assuming that what the email literally says is what's literally happening.
Yeah, the email kind of reads as, hey, look, no delays. If you want to have quicker access to the Sims, you have them now. But what I can see being a potential long-term positive is if people want to have these sort of things in place and they use Wizard or they use Odin for this. When it comes to the gaming integrity and security standpoint from operating sites, and they look through hand histories of, call it, flagged or reported accounts, because what we have been seeing as of recent is higher stakes players playing high stakes games saying, hey, this account seems a little bit funky, and then they reach out and then security kind of does a sweep, where if someone's using this as a crutch and sweeping, there's going to be more, like the chance that they get banned or removed from the site as a whole is going to be increased.
Yeah.
So short term, it's going to be a problem, but long term maybe sort of allows for the cleanup of all of that stuff. But at the same time, people can just make new accounts. People can be smarter and more efficient about how they quote unquote cheat, right? Because now if you're looking at certain situations, some spots are worth more EV to or not to. And then how can you make that decision of somebody cheating versus just being extremely studied?
Yeah.
It's tough, you know?
Yeah, and to be clear, in some defense of Odin, I didn't realize this because I thought this was a discussion a long time ago, but I actually have Wizard open right now, and it's like a 5-second delay.
Really?
Is there any difference between Odin and Wizard, like in their solves?
Probably, but you know, Dom would be able to speak more clearly on their level of accuracy.
It's parameter based,
but they're both, yeah, they're both like, you know, probably within like 0.5, 0.25 accuracy. Yeah, so this is pretty wild. I had no idea that Wizard also didn't have much of a buffer. It seems like it's like 3 to 5 seconds. This seems like a problem. I mean, I guess nobody cares because they think the Sims are so inaccurate that like using it in real time isn't a big deal. But to me, this just seems like a massive fucking problem, and one that I would hope people are going to get a hold of very soon. We literally just banned 2 of the biggest names in all of poker because they had their own unique version of this that was running in real time. Like, sure, you're not going to be able to do this over multiple tables, but you don't need to. You can just play one table bigger and just like, you know, play as perfect as the sim allows you to. And, you know, obviously that results in like whatever inaccuracies are built into this system in and of itself. But, you know, it also opens the door to creating other web-based programs that have more accurate sims
that's what I'm saying. Like the technology is just going to get better. It's going to get better. They're going to become more accurate, and like, and if we don't do something right now, then this is going to be even a bigger problem down the road.
Who the fuck would play online? Like, imagine Ignition.
Right,
honestly,
seriously.
like, imagine Ignition, which is an anonymous player pool. Who the fuck is playing on these sites, man?
Right.
Where like okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the lookup feature, find out that they actually ran this board at real time. We're RTAing me using Wizard or Odin. And I have to report seat 9, player XYZ, because it's fucking anonymous anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the likelihood of that ever being policed is near zero.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we're kind of seeing the countdown to 0 for the online environment kind of be the way it is.
Who the fuck would play on apps?
Oh my
Who
God.
would play on apps where you're getting raked to death and can RTA and can collude and can... Like, what? This wasn't what today's show was supposed to be about, but like, this is mind-blowing to me.
Yes, it is.
I'm actually it's kind of wild that we haven't realized that there was no delay on GTO Wizard.
I mean, this is no slight against Wizard, but I just think that the majority of people who are like well studied and pretty competitive aren't using these lookup databases all that often.
Yeah, but it's like still.
What I'm saying is like, I don't use it. How would I know?
No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
For what it's worth, it's not necessarily about the database or whatever. It's just about the ease of access and use of implementation. Because let's say somebody has Pio and they run a script for all the boards, for all the stack depths, and they can look it up in real time if they want to, right? That's always been an option for X amount of years. But now that it's commercialized, it's very easy to get that access at your fingertips. Right, so it's always been a problem. It's just about how excessive and rampant is this problem, and how does it get resolved?
Yeah, this bothers me. I don't know, man. Like, it bothers me because of this. There's such a separation from people who got into the game when it was more of a purist game, versus now where it's much more scientific and technical. And obviously the game was always the game, right? Like, it's the evolution of understanding it better. And you can say the same thing about baseball and everything else. And, as much as I love baseball, I'm not a purist when it comes to the game. Like, if we can make things better, we should. There might be some things that like I don't like that they disappeared. Like, I liked the neighborhood play. I think it was smart. And I like a little bit of subjectivity into the game. But with all that being said, I think it gets a little bit ridiculous whenever the game's no longer about skills that you can curate as a human being, and much more about like how well you can just follow a blueprint, right? Like, if you're no longer 20 tabling, which is a skill set in and of itself, but instead you're just one tabling at 10x the stakes and using a database to make every single decision, sure, it's easy for the best players in the game to say like, this isn't a problem. Like, I understand Jeremiah's point of view where he's like, look, online poker is still really fucking good and it's very profitable and I can make a lot of money at it. It's like, yeah, you can, because you're one of the fucking best. Period. Right? Like, yeah, you're fucking great at the game, man. You can outperform somebody using GTO Wizard in at least some of the streets and the nodes. And like, you're not going to give much up even in the ones where you're not outperforming it, right? So like, for you, yeah, this isn't much of a problem. But for the ecosystem as a whole, it's a huge fucking problem. Because not everyone in the game is Jeremiah. If everyone in the game was Jeremiah, the game would cease to exist. But everybody gets a hell of a lot closer to being Jeremiah if they're using a lookup tool. Right?
Yeah.
If you're using a chess engine while you're playing, you don't become Magnus, but you aren't fucking playing 800 chess anymore. Yeah. Like, I've never played chess in my life. I don't even know how the pieces move. I could become above average if I'm just following Stockfish.
Well, you actually become better than Magnus if you use the engine.
You would. You'd be perfect.
Yeah, and then you get banned from the site, because honestly, when it comes to the way that chess software does for banning accounts, is greater than by a massive percentage than like poker software.
Yeah, that's like all the players that are like, right around break even that aren't using this technology are not just going to get torched. They're just done.
They're dead.
And then they're out of the game for good.
And think of how big of an uproar we made whenever we saw on the horizon that poker was becoming harder and Stars eliminated their Supernova Elite program.
Yep.
We weren't mad because they eliminated like this thing that we had some sort of emotional attachment to. We were mad because of how big of a percentage of the player pool was just rakeback players. They were losing small, chasing Supernova Elite in order to make $100,000 in rakeback.
Right.
So they're net 50 to 80K winners when it's all said and done. They're losing a half a big blind per 100 playing small, medium stakes, whatever, right? We were mad because a big part of the pool that was surviving strictly off of having the game, like they were literally just keeping the games alive. They were just keeping the games running, right? It was online's version of shit regs or VIPs that you absolutely need in your ecosystem in order to allow both better and worse players to compete. And they took away their lifeline. They took away their lifeblood. And they said, no, this is sink or swim time. You either have to get better and start to beat the rake or die off. And what happened? Online poker got smaller. I mean, that's not exactly why, but there's a correlation there, right? Now, all of a sudden, what we're saying is the inverse. We're saying now the bar to break even is going way the fuck up. Because if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And if you're not able to replicate somebody who's cheating, then you're not going to be good enough. And you're just going to get swallowed up alive.
Yeah, there's the very small percentage that can still sustain and thrive in the environment with the, call it down bad RTA. And most are just going to get cannibalized. So you're either going to have to be top X% of the field in the player pool or cheating.
Maybe this is why live MTTs are growing so much. I mean, obviously there's other reasons, but it's like it's maybe the safest form of poker, right? You're not allowed to use your phones. It's all randomized where you sit, like all these things. Like it's might be the fairest.
It is
form of poker.
Nobody thinks about that shit.
No, they just want to win a bunch of money.
They just want to come out and play, man.
I know, but I'm just maybe they will start to think about that. Come on out. Come to the Venetian. Play 800 today.
With that being said, the tortoise will be at the Venetian in about an hour.
Right. Better be less than that. Shit. Need to get there with 100 bigs.
Well, I was going to talk bomb pots today, but it seems as though we derailed a little bit into maybe a more important subject, but did have a pretty big win yesterday. Ended up winning about 100K on stream. Lost a little bit back off stream. We did it. We booked that dub.
Let's go, Berkey. Man.
Boom.
You know what the thing is now?
What?
You got to follow it up with another dub. Like,
make it like it wasn't a one-off.
Yeah, like you got to let them know, like this shit's not a one-off, big.
I mean, I won 2K the day before,
Yeah, that's true. You did. Huge win.
This is back to back.
I mean, you're in fighting spirit. You're ready. You're ready to close out the fucking Weekend Warrior series.
They say good things come in threes, Burke.
It's not the weekend, is it?
It's not tomorrow, but we're close. This hand was pretty wild. I ended up jamming river in a spot where ace king gets there, which only ace king of spades should really exist because I raised flop, but all king 9 will be there because a 9 was a pair on the bottom on the flop, or it's very likely to be there, and all 9-8 will for sure be there. So the river's a 10 up top, and I elected to jam, and I think the problem was I wasn't even necessarily jamming for value. I was trying to get a hand like ace jack to fold, which is like just a pair of jack. Yeah, something that's like beating me on the bottom, like a one pair hand that's beating me on the bottom, that is like a bad one pair up top and doesn't really want to call. And I miraculously found a hand that was only drawing to one board, and it was the board I had her dead on.
Yeah.
So very fortunate. Like literally the 10 river is probably the most brutal river that the top can find outside of a spade. Yeah, I don't think I can ever jam a spade, even though I have the queen of spades. It's just too likely that I'm... Oh, no, I definitely could jam a spade. So the 10 actually might be worse than a spade, right? Because 6-7 of spades doesn't exist, which would scoop me. I would only really lose to like the nut flush. So it'd be really close. But even still, I'd probably just check back and try to chop, just win the bottom and lose the top. In any event, like a 10 is probably like one of the worst river cards just due to the presence of 9-8 alone. And it's really hard to get called by worse. So I need her to have like a set of 6s, a set of 3s, turned set of jacks somehow, something along those lines, or Jack 10 for top. No, because that would be nothing on the bottom, right? It would just be a pair.
Pair 10s,
yeah, I mean Jack 10 would be like a pretty crazy call.
Well, she was open-ended on the.
No,
bottom.
I mean it would just be a crazy call on the river.
Oh, right.
But it's kind of the same as Queen 3, to be honest.
I'm trying to find a hand that doesn't chop here in your perspective. I mean, like, what hand?
You mean when I jam?
Yes, like when she calls, what hand, like.
I get scooped by Ace King. I get scooped by 9-8.
No. I'm sorry. I'm looking from the other's perspective.
Oh, for her,
of this.
she's only calling to chop. She has Queen High on the bottom.
Yeah, like
she's only calling to chop, and she loses to like just endless hands up top. Like she loses the Queen 10, she loses the Queen Jack, which probably don't ever jam, but maybe she loses the queens, she loses the 6s and 3s. She loses to King 9, Ace King, which I can have all those. Like I can bluff raise more than she can bet call.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like we talked about it afterwards. She said she thought it was a mistake, and that's the nature of bomb pots. Like they're a bit of a mind fuck, especially double board. Like imagine playing basically double board bomb pots are the equivalent of no limit 8 or better, right?
Yeah,
except instead of it being Omaha, it's like no limit hold'em 8 or better.
Yeah,
this is kind of the equivalent of it, right? Because in a single board, you would just it doesn't work out as well because you don't get 4 cards, right? So like if you played 2 card no limit hold'em 8 or better, it would just be a boring game because you'd still mostly just chase highs. Like lows would be lows could like almost never scoop, right? And they just like wouldn't be worth as much. It's the 4 card aspect of Omaha that makes high low so interesting. But if you do double board like that, now you basically double the combinations of the 2 cards that can be made, and it really does create an absolute mindfuck. There's one hand that I'll discuss, a river spot that was like pretty tough at the end of the night. We don't have to go deep into it, but I thought it was a fun hand. So I had Ace 10 of clubs, and the board was King 8 5 up top, and the bottom was Ace 8 3 7 on the bottom with 2 clubs, and the flop had checked through the.
I'm here.
Yeah, without visuals, it's tough. But basically, just know that King 8 is the nuts up top, and there's also an 8 on the bottom board. So like Ace 8 would be top 2 on the bottom board, and there's also a nut flush draw available. So there are 2 clubs. So I bet like half pot on the turn. Phil raises me. I bet 1K. He makes it 3K. And Ishan cold 3 bets minimum. So it goes 1K, 3K, 5K. I think I have a pretty clear call here because I'm drawing to the nuts on 1, and it's relatively cheap. So I call Phil calls. The river is another ace on the bottom, giving me trips, and it's a queen up top. And Ishan shoves for like 2.5 pots, which is a really good play if he has either board locked up, because basically that's the nature of if pot limit Omaha 8 or better turned into no limit Omaha 8 or better, you would just absolutely fuck people that don't play 2-way hands. And in this instance, I had a 1-way hand, right? And I could potentially just get scooped if he got thin 3-betting a hand like Ace King on the flop. So ultimately, I tanked forever. I'm like, I lose to Ace 8, although that probably doesn't 3-bet the flop. But Phil could have Ace 8 behind me, in which case, if I call, he's calling because it's the nuts, and then I get scooped by each of them. They just chop up my money. Ultimately, I end up folding. And Phil had a hand that inherently seems like it was a layup to play it the way he played it. But I think that he should have played it very differently. He turned 5s full up top. So King 8 5. And he ultimately folded to Ishan's bet because now he just gets scooped by like King Queen. Actually, that's not true. He beats King Queen on the bottom. He only loses to King 8. I'm really surprised he folded now that I think about it.
Fear.
Yeah. Actually, in real time, I was telling him he should have never raised the turn, which I still stand by because he basically has a bluff catcher since it's a 1-way hand. But I don't think he ever loses it would only be like pocket queens, which Ishan should never ever have, or pocket eights. So there's one combo of pocket eights that he loses to, and then he gets scooped by king eight. But you know, he can't assume that hand's really out there all that often. Whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into the strategy of it, but I found it to be fascinating because he has like a relatively nutted hand up top with the underboat. But the whole point is in bomb pots and double board bomb pots where you're playing a split pot game, if you can't scoop and your hand is actively being drawn against, you can't be aggressive.
Right.
So because he has the underboat and anyone with a king is never folding, he's now being actively drawn against on the board that he feels like he has locked up, and he can never improve on the other one. So he can never win the whole pot, and he can get sucked out on for the whole pot. So like you just never really want to invest money. You just want to play bluff catching strategy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I was just a little sour because it obviously ultimately fucked me. If he hadn't raised the turn, then River would have played differently, and I would have just won half the pot. But Ishan had king eight.
Imagine no limit, 8 or better, double board bomb pots.
Well, that you don't have to. Oh, are you saying pot limit? Or sorry, Omaha rather?
Oh yeah, Omaha. So Omaha, like PLO 8 double board bomb pots. Now that's a mind fuck. Because now you're talking about high and low. You split both pots, so you're just like you could split the pot 4 ways, really.
No, you would just be a fool to ever chase a low. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. You couldn't play double board.
You need to have have a low, but
that's what I'm saying. Like
highs.
you have a high and a low on each board.
Right. You wouldn't ever want to play that game. Like you would just never go low.
Yeah.
Because you're too like you could like almost never scoop.
You would only go for single draws
right,
with
like
highs.
The lows would just get quartered out so often, or eighth out in this instance.
Yeah, eighth.
That just like wouldn't be worth anything.
Yeah, it's true.
But like what we were saying, they basically do play double board bomb pot PLO in a very no limit kind of way by capping it. So like when you go to Texas, they'll just cap it at like 100 big blinds, and it just becomes no limit on the flop because if you flop equity, everybody's just all in.
Right.
Which is shitty.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It takes a lot of strategy.
Equity and just run it.
That takes the fun away from it.
Yeah.
You got to you want people to think about the River decision where they like drew one way the whole way, and now
I think that's why no limit double board is like one of the more fascinating variants. Because of it's similar to like deuce to 7 in the way that you can utilize blockers as really, really critical jam spots. So like, for instance, when Ishan jams the River, that's beautiful because what he knows is that it's unlikely anybody has a nutted hand on the bottom because he blocks the 8. So he knows no one has pocket 8s for 8s full, and he thinks it's pretty unlikely that they have ace 8 for top full house. So what ultimately happens is he puts trips in a spot where they can't call and win half the pot. And now he wins his unfair share of a scoop, right? But he's also in a scenario where he's free rolling against Hellmuth, who could potentially call off with the underboat.
Yeah.
And now he scoops the way that I did against Robbie, right? Where a one-way hand, basically he puts all one-way hands in the cage.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you can't get too crazy with one-way hands.
Right, because it's like you're either getting half the pot or you're getting nothing.
It's literally a bluff catcher.
I taught Landon that lesson the very first time we played these in Texas.
Oh, I wish you could see Landon.
Oh my God, he's
that
stimming.
eye roll that Landon just had right now. I wish the camera was on.
I literally won the hand.
He's fucking shaking right now.
His eyes literally went completely in the back of his head.
I literally won the hand.
I feel like there were 6s involved in this.
He had 6s.
I made him fold. I won.
He flopped a set on king 9-6.
Yeah.
And then the bottom board was like king brick, like king deuce 3 or something like that. The bottom board was like queen deuce 3. And I had let out with a king and ultimately folded. But in the meantime, there was a guy between us. So I let out. Landon either ripped or raised like really, really big.
I raised because I jammed turn.
Okay, yeah. So he raised he raised very big. And this guy in between us like tanked for a long time and ultimately folded. And I just made a comment. I said, I don't know what that hand is, but I'd buy it. And Landon goes, go ahead, take the fucking hand. And so I was like, okay. And the guy slid me his hand, and I look, and he has queen 10 for a gut shot up top and top pair on the bottom. And I'm looking at the board like 10 different ways. I'm like, there's no hand he can have here that's scooping. Like, if I make a jack up top, like, I probably scoop.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I'm still probably winning the bottom. And honestly, like, I was still very new to it too, because if I had thought about it longer, I also would have just called the turn to chop. But it was like a big jam, and I knew I was chopping it best, whatever. So the turn bricks out on both. I don't improve either. And he jams and I fold. And he proudly shows sixes. And I'm just like, you were literally getting free rolled, man. Like,
that ain't free.
If I had played my hand correctly, you were getting free rolled. You couldn't win the bottom, and I could improve the top. But I made a mistake, obviously. And he was so adamant that I'm an idiot, and like, this is what you're supposed to do when you have a one-way hand and all this other stuff. And I'm like, all right, man. Like, if I just have pocket kings for top set up top and an overpair on the bottom, you're stone dead. You're just out.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have that because he tanked for so long.
Obviously,
Live
he wouldn't have
reads.
kings.
Yeah.
He couldn't have kings, but like, I could have led with kings. Double board bomb pops are mind fuck, man. They're a lot of fucking fun. I think they're hard for the audience to follow though. When it comes to stream games, it's like,
there's a lot of stuff going on.
It's too much. I mean, it's hard to play them, so like, I can imagine what it's like to view them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I love them so much. I just need to go down to the win, play some 5-5 double board, PLO bomb pots.
They're a good thing to get good at. Yeah, Lee Jones, thanks for the super chat. He said large cap double board bomb pots because the Rex were getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why they did it. I just think that if you're going to cap it, just do single board instead and take the cap off. Rex won't get nearly as destroyed. Single board's like very straightforward and easy to understand. You make good hand, you put in money kind of thing. But, whatever. People want their action, man. We're here to give it to them.
Right.
We're here to give it to them. All right. That's gonna do it, I think. Let's wrap this thing up because I got to get down there and take all their money.
We got some big shit going on here. Tomorrow's like a 1-year anniversary.
Yep.
We got an awards show.
Did you plan tomorrow's show? I haven't yet.
Did I plan tomorrow's show?
Yeah. You have like all the skits and bits that we're doing. Like, it's the 1-year anniversary. You have everything planned, right?
I get to that at like 8 a.m.
Tomorrow will be a normal show.
8:15 a.m. tomorrow morning. I roll over. I say, "Fuck, it's 8:15 already," and then I go look through Twitter, stuff like that. And then I'm like,
I thought we were gonna do like trivia and like a look back over the last year.
Wow, that would be fun.
A real nostalgic episode. I thought you were on this, Conrad.
No, nobody gave me a good idea to do this until 24 hours before. My God.
I've been talking about this for 2 weeks. I've literally been talking about this for 2 weeks.
You'll be back in studio tomorrow, Burke?
I will be. I think unless we play off stream, I'm going to fly back tonight, but I think the likelihood we play off stream is pretty high. So I'll probably fly back first thing in the morning.
Sounds great.
All right.
But yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. A lot of things to talk about before we head into the weekend. Big show today. If you guys want to tune into Live at the Bike, it's going to be Johnny Vibes, Masato, Robbie Lou, myself, Hellmuth. Everybody's coming to the bike. I think even Kitty Cow is going to be here.
Kitty Cow is there.
Kitty Cow. All right.
Good luck, Bert.
You know what? Maybe I should dress nicer now that I know Kitty's here.
Can we just talk about her refrigerator tomorrow?
Handsome man. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, she told me I was too cute.
Oh God. All right, get me out of here.
Cut it out.
Get me out of here.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Peace.